The aroma of steaming egusi soup mixed with pounded yam filled the Okonkwo family dining room. It was a Sunday afternoon ritual, everyone home after church, the air-conditioned dining area keeping out the harsh Lagos heat. But something was off. Ebel Okonkwo, 22, final-year student of business administration at Unilag, noticed her adoptive father's stiff posture. Chief Okonkwo was usually jovial after church, bragging about his connections or political gossip. But today, he barely touched his food. Her adoptive mother, Mama Nkechi, kept glancing at him nervously. "What's going on?" Ebel asked, setting her fork down. Chief cleared his throat. "Ebel, there is something we have kept from you for many years. Something you must know now." Her brow furrowed. "What is it?" You are not our biological daughter." The words hung in the air like a bad smell. Ebel blinked, unsure if she heard right. "What?" Mama Nkechi's voice trembled. "We found you in a rural clinic when you were just a few months old. You were abandoned. We took you in, loved you like our own." Ebel's heart pounded. Her mind raced through memories, childhood birthdays, family photos, moments she thought defined who she was. All of it suddenly felt fragile. Why tell me now?" she asked, her voice small. Chief leaned back, releasing a heavy sigh. "Because we are in trouble. Big trouble." Mama Nkechi lowered her gaze. Chief continued, "The family business is collapsing. I made some bad investments, and I owe people money. Dangerous people." Ebel's stomach tightened. "And what does that have to do with me being adopted?" Chief looked her straight in the eye. "Because if you were our blood, we would never ask this. But there is one man willing to help. In exchange, he wants you to marry his son." The air in the room grew heavy. "Excuse me," she said, her tone rising. "His son is not from our social class," Chief said carefully. "He works as a street sweeper for the local council." Ebel laughed, not from humor, but disbelief. "A street sweeper? You want me to marry a man who sweeps gutters?" Mama Nkechi reached for her hand. "Ebel, please. This is the only way to save us. He is a good man, humble." "I don't care if he's humble. I'm not marrying someone I don't know, just to pay your debts." Chief's eyes hardened. "You owe us everything. We raised you, gave you the life of a princess. Now it's time to repay the family that took you in." Her voice cracked. "So, because I'm adopted, you think I'm expendable?" No one answered. Dinner ended in tense silence. Ebel left the table, her appetite gone. She locked herself in her room, sitting on the bed in her church dress, staring at the cream-colored walls. The words, "You are not our biological daughter," echoed in her mind. Her whole identity felt stolen. Now they wanted to tie her to a man she'd never met, a street sweeper, as if her life was currency. By nightfall, she had packed a small bag. She thought of calling her best friend Amora, but what would she say? "Hey, my parents just sold me off to clear their debts?" She couldn't even form the words. She considered running away, but where? She had no real family to run to, no savings, and no plan. She unpacked slowly, her hands trembling. The walls of the room she'd slept in since childhood now felt like a cage. Lying in bed that night, she stared at the ceiling, her mind looping over the same questions. Who are my real parents? Why was I abandoned? And what kind of life awaits me with this? Chaik? Outside, the hum of Lagos nightlife drifted in through her window, distant honks, laughter from a beer parlor down the street, and the faint call of a street hawker selling suya. It was the sound of a city that never slept, a city where dreams could be made or crushed. For the first time in her life, Ebel wasn't sure which fate awaited her. The first light of dawn was just brushing over the streets of Lagos when Chaik slung his broom over his shoulder. The reflective vest he wore was faded, its orange dull from years under the scorching sun. The air was thick with the smell of wet dust and yesterday's refuse. Balagan Market was waking up. Traders rolled up metal shutters, apprentices arranged goods, and the distant clang of frying pans signaled breakfast being prepared in roadside bukas. Chaik swept slowly, his broom scratching over the cracked pavement. "Senior man," one of the younger sweepers called out with a grin. Book smart but still sweeping gutter. Any you get this street? Chaik chuckled softly. Better to sweep street than sweep people's pockets, he replied, his tone calm but laced with meaning. They laughed, but he kept working. He was deliberate with every sweep, every movement, like a man with discipline drilled into him. Yet there was something else in his eyes, a quiet fire that didn't match his job. By 8:30 a.m., his section of the street was spotless. He slipped away to a public tap, washed his hands and face, and changed into clean jeans and a plain polo shirt. His reflective vest went into his backpack. He headed to a small cafe tucked away near Broad Street. The waitress, Tai, greeted him warmly. "Lawyer we day sweep street, you don come again," she teased, placing a steaming cup of tea before him. On the table, he opened a thick law textbook, flipping to a section on municipal ordinances. He read with intense focus, occasionally scribbling notes into a well-worn notebook. Tai peered over his shoulder. "All this big grammar, a beg na wetting you day plan?" He smiled faintly. "Preparation," he said simply. What no one in the cafe knew was that Chaik's father, Mayor Ukena Okafor, had no idea where his son was. They hadn't spoken in years. Chaik had chosen this life deliberately, for reasons known only to him. That afternoon, he received a terse call from his mother's old friend, Madame Ijeoma. "Your father's debtors are forcing a girl into marriage to pay off what's owed. The girl will be your wife." Chaik closed his book slowly. "When?" "2 weeks from now." His jaw tightened. "Fine." No one around him knew what accepting this marriage meant, but Chaik did. And it was part of a plan he had been quietly building. The Anglican church in Surulere wasn't grand, but the polished wooden pews gleamed under soft morning light. Ebel stood at the altar in a simple cream gown, her veil resting stiffly against her hair. She barely looked at Chaik, who was in a well-fitted but plain suit. The whispers from the small congregation were like static in her ears. "Na street sweeper she day marry? Her papa seldom finish. Him, but the guy fine shaw." The priest's voice rang out. "Do you, Chaik Okafor, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Chaik said with a steady voice. "And do you, Ebel Okonkwo?" Her throat tightened. She saw her parents' hard stares from the front row. "I do." The ceremony was over quickly. No grand reception, no live band, no mountains of jollof rice. Just lukewarm maltina, a small tray of meat pies, and awkward conversations. Amora, Ebel's best friend, pulled her aside. "Babe, I swear this is madness. I'll help you run if you want." Ebel forced a smile. "Thanks, but where will I run to?" When it was time to leave, Chaik walked her to an old Toyota Corolla. The drive to his neighborhood was silent, only the hum of the engine and the occasional Danfo horn breaking it. His one-room apartment was modest but neat. A small bed in the corner, a worn sofa, a table stacked with books. "You can take the bed," Chaik said. "I'll sleep on the couch. You're safe here." It was the first kind thing she'd heard all day. "Oh." Ebel woke to the sound of children's laughter mixed with the blaring of a generator. She stepped outside to see the narrow street lined with rusted zinc roofs, women selling akara, and men playing drafts under a mango tree. The air smelled of fried beans and stagnant gutter water. She missed her old life instantly, the air-conditioned bedroom, the quiet, the polished floors. At the public tap, she queued with a yellow jerry can. The women ahead of her chatted about politics and market prices, glancing at her expensive wristwatch. One whispered, "Any that sweeper wife." When she returned, Chaik was cooking yam porridge. "You should eat before it gets cold," he said. She wanted to reject it out of pride, but hunger won. It was delicious. Over the next week, she noticed Chaik's habits. He left early, came back late, and always had a new book. Sometimes he'd bring her small gifts, a pack of biscuits, a new bucket. Once, she asked, "Why are you so nice to me?" He simply shrugged. "It's how I was raised." One afternoon, Ebel went to buy pepper at the market. As she picked through the pile, 2 women nearby gossiped in hushed tones. "That Chaik no be ordinary sweeper oh. Na true. My cousins say him sabai speak grammar like lawyer." And some big men they greet him like say dim know him. Ebel frowned. Later that night, she found him at the table, reading a dense law textbook. Why are you reading that? She asked. For self-improvement, he replied with a faint smile. She wasn't convinced. People didn't just read law for fun. Something about Chaik didn't add up, and now, she was determined to find out. 2 weeks into their marriage, Ebel had learned Chaik's daily rhythm, out before sunrise, back late in the evening, broom in hand, clothes smelling faintly of dust and sweat. But there were cracks in his humble sweeper image. On a Thursday afternoon, she followed him, keeping her distance, as he walked to a part of Lagos Island she'd never been to. Instead of heading to his usual sweeping route, he slipped into a gated compound where uniformed security greeted him with a respectful, "Good afternoon, sir." "Sir? For a street sweeper?" Ebel lingered by the gate, pretending to be on her phone. 20 minutes later, Chaik emerged, speaking confidently with a man in a tailored suit. Their conversation wasn't casual, it had the energy of a business meeting. When he saw her on the street, he didn't react with surprise, only said, "I thought you had errands." "Done with them," she said, her voice flat. He smiled faintly. "Let's go home." That night, she lay awake wondering, if he could walk into places like that and be treated with respect, why was he sweeping streets? Oh. It was a humid Saturday when a convoy of black SUVs rolled into the slum. The neighbors gathered in awe. It was the mayor's entourage. Chaik, who had been repairing a loose window hinge, froze when he heard the honking. Mayor Ukena Okafor stepped out, his agbada pristine, gold wristwatch glinting in the sun. He scanned the crowd until his eyes locked on Chaik. The mayor's aide approached. "Oga wants to speak with you." Chaik hesitated, then walked over. Ebel, curious, followed a few steps behind. Their exchange was tense but hushed. The mayor's deep voice carried a mixture of authority and regret. "You've stayed hidden long enough," the mayor said. "I'm not ready," Chaik replied. "You're my son. You can't live like this forever," the mayor pressed. Before Ebel could process the shock, "My son," Chaik glanced back and saw her. The aide quickly whispered something to the mayor, who nodded and returned to his SUV. The convoy drove off, leaving Ebel stunned. She didn't ask questions that night, but she wanted answers more than ever. A week later, Ebel visited her parents, determined to confront them about the mayor. But what she learned instead made her blood run cold. Amora pulled her aside before she went in. "Babe, your papa's debt isn't small money matter. Oh. He borrowed from a political cartel, the kind of people that make people disappear." Inside, Chief Okonkwo admitted it. The marriage was the only way to get them off our backs. Chaik, his connected. "He can protect you." "Protect me? From who?" Ebel demanded. "From men you can't fight. Men who would take you to make me pay." It began to make a twisted kind of sense. Chaik wasn't just a random sweeper, he was part of something much bigger. When she got home, she confronted him. "Did you marry me to protect me from my father's mess?" He didn't answer right away. "Would it matter if I did?" "It matters because I deserve to know the truth." "You will. When it's safe," he said, and walked away. Oh. One Friday evening, Ebel was leaving the salon when she ran into Toby, her wealthy ex-boyfriend. His eyes flicked to the simple sandals she was wearing and the market bag in her hand. "So it's true," he sneered. "You married a road sweeper. That's none of your business." "Oh, it is. People like you don't belong in the gutter. You made a mistake, and one day you'll regret it." The next day, Toby showed up at the slum, shouting for Chaik. When Chaik came out, Toby laughed loudly. "This is your husband? Lagos waste collector? My shoe is worth more than him." The neighbors murmured. Chaik stayed silent, simply guiding Ebel back inside. That night, she heard glass shatter in the living room. Chaik was standing over a broken cup, fists clenched, breathing hard. "You could have said something," she whispered. "And waste my breath on men like him," he replied. "Silence is sometimes the loudest answer." For the first time, she admired him. It was late, past midnight, when Ebel found Chaik sitting outside under the dim glow of a streetlight, reading yet another law book. She sat beside him. "Why do you do it?" The sweeping. The books. The secrecy. He closed the book slowly. Because the man you see now isn't the man I'll be forever. Then who will you be? A man who can protect the people he cares about. Even if it means hiding in plain sight for years. You're talking like this marriage was part of a plan. It was, he admitted. Your father's debt put you in danger. Marrying you gave me the right to protect you, and to keep certain people from touching you. She was quiet for a long time. You could have just told me. Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was just a sweeper trying to impress you? She didn't answer. But that night, as they sat in silence under the streetlight, something shifted. She no longer saw him as just the man she'd been forced to marry, he was becoming something much more complex. Oh. It was a humid Thursday afternoon when Ebel decided to walk home from the market instead of taking an Okada. The streets were crowded with hawkers shouting, "Pure water! Gala!" and buses honking. She was halfway through a narrow side street when a black Toyota Camry screeched to a stop beside her. Two men jumped out, faces hidden by caps. "Enter the car." One barked, grabbing her arm. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Let me go," she screamed, twisting hard. Before they could drag her in, a blur of movement came from behind. "Chike!" He slammed one man into the car door, sending him sprawling. The other swung a punch. Chike ducked, landed a hard blow to his ribs, and kicked the car door shut on his arm. The attackers scrambled back into the Camry, speeding off, tires screeching. Ebel's knees buckled. Chike caught her. "You're safe now," he said, his voice low but steady. She looked up at him, breathless. "How did you?" "I was following you," he said simply. "I knew they might try something." Back at the apartment, she sat in silence, replaying the scene. The precision in his movements, that wasn't street fighting. That was training. The next morning, Ebel watched from the doorway as Chike cleaned a small cut on his knuckle. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" she asked. He shrugged. "Here and there." "That wasn't here and there. That was professional." He didn't answer. Instead, he opened his box under the bed. Inside was a neatly folded dark suit, a passport, a gold-plated pen, and a thick envelope of official-looking documents. "You're not just a street sweeper," she said quietly. He met her gaze. "No, I'm not. But if you know too much too soon, you'll become a target." "Target for who?" "The same people who came for you yesterday. The same people your father owes." Her stomach twisted. "So this marriage, it's really about keeping me safe." "And about something bigger," he said, closing the box. "But for now, stay close to me. No more walking alone." Oh. Weeks passed. The attempted kidnapping had shaken Ebel, but it also brought her and Chike closer. She started noticing little things, the way he carried her market bags without being asked, the way he always positioned himself between her and the road, the way he listened when she spoke. One rainy evening, they cooked together for the first time, yam porridge, her favorite. She laughed when he spilled too much palm oil into the pot. "Ah, see as you turn 'em to oil soup." For a moment, it felt normal. Like they weren't forced into this. That night, as the rain tapped against the zinc roof, she found herself watching him as he read by candlelight, his brow furrowed in concentration. Against her will, she was beginning to feel something. A pull she couldn't ignore. It came on a Sunday morning. A folded note slid under their door. Chike picked it up, read it, and his jaw tightened. "Stay out of our way or we'll finish what we started." No signature, but the message was clear. "Who sent it?" Ebel asked, her voice shaky. "People who think they own this city," he replied. "People I've been working to take down for years." "Working how?" "Gathering evidence. Building a case. Waiting for the right moment." She stared at him. "You're a lawyer?" "Not yet. But I've studied enough law to challenge them when the time comes." He burned the note in a metal basin. "This changes nothing. We keep living our lives, but you don't leave my side." Oh. That week, the mayor summoned Chike to a private meeting at City Hall. Ebel insisted on coming. Mayor Ukena Okafor's office was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He greeted Chaik warmly, ignoring the confusion on Ebel's face. "So you've finally brought her," the mayor said. "Good. She deserves to know." Ebel turned to Chaik. "Know what?" The mayor clasped his hands. "Chaik is my son. My firstborn. I kept him away from politics because this city is dangerous. But he insisted on living among the people, seeing the city for what it really is." Ebel's mind spun. "So, all this time, I was married to the mayor's son?" "Yes," the mayor said. "And he married you not just to protect you, but because he's building a case against the same cartel your father owes. When he's ready, he'll run for office and clean up this city." Chaik glanced at her, his eyes steady. "Now you know everything, except the part that's yet to happen." It happened at dusk. The streets of Surulere were buzzing with evening life, vendors frying akara, okadas weaving between cars, the smell of roasted corn in the air. Chaik and Ebel had just returned from visiting Amora when the first warning came, 2 loud bangs against their zinc door. Before Chaik could react, the door flew open. 3 masked men stormed in, brandishing machetes. "Where is the file?" one barked. Chaik stepped forward. "You're in the wrong house." The man laughed coldly. "You think we don't know? We here say UWN spoil our work. Today you go learn." They lunged. Chaik grabbed a wooden chair, swinging it hard into the first attacker's chest. Ebel screamed as another slashed at Chaik's arm, drawing blood. But before they could finish, neighbors poured in, young men with sticks and stones, rallying behind Chaik. The attackers fled into the night. Ebel knelt beside him, pressing a towel to his bleeding arm. "You can't keep living like this," she whispered. Chaik met her eyes. "That's exactly why I have to finish what I started." Oh. 2 days later, Ebel's worst fear came true. She was returning from the tailor's shop when a tinted minibus pulled up. A man stepped out, smiling politely. "Madam, your husband say make we pick you." Before she could answer, the side door slid open and 2 men yanked her inside. The bus sped off, the streets blurring past. Ebel's heart raced. Hours later, they stopped in a dimly lit warehouse. A tall man in a white kaftan stepped forward, the cartel's leader, known only as Haji Musa. "You are leverage," he said calmly. "Tell your husband to stop his digging, or we will send him your body." Her voice trembled. "You don't scare me." Musa chuckled. "Then you don't know me yet." Before dawn, the door burst open, Chaik, flanked by 3 plainclothes officers. The room erupted into chaos. Within minutes, Musa's men were disarmed and handcuffed. As he untied her, Chaik whispered, "They made the mistake of touching you twice. They won't get a third chance."